if GDP growth is population growth plus productivity growth plus debt growth, that was the equation that has run the everything code. And we're transitioning now into the new version of that, where we add in the AI and the robots. And then we add in energy density and efficiency and the efficiency of driving intelligence. This is the new economy, the economy of the economic singularity. And what happens is the economy can theoretically move faster than we've ever witnessed economies moving before, because the population growth and that growth of intelligence, which is the productivity, is exponential in itself.
There are moments in history that divide civilization into a before and an after. The printing press, electricity, the internet. But what happens when artificial intelligence, robotics, tokenized capital, exponential computing, and abundant energy all collide at the same point in time? According to Raoul Pal, that convergence has a name: the economic singularity. A period so transformative that our existing models for work, wealth, investing, and even economic forecasting simply stop functioning. What's perhaps most unsettling is how quickly the timeline has collapsed. Pal once thought this transition would become impossible to understand sometime around 2032. Today, he believes that date may be closer to 2030. In other words, the next 4 years could reshape the next 400. And while that prospect sounds frightening, history has always rewarded those who recognize the shift before everyone else. In this video, we're breaking down Raoul Pal's latest warning about the economic singularity, why AI and robotics could push GDP growth into territory never before witnessed in human history, how machine economies and autonomous agents are beginning to emerge, and why crypto may become the financial rails of this entirely new world. If you enjoy macro analysis that helps you stay ahead of the curve, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
And today, I want to revisit a topic because it's incredibly important. It's the thing that's on everybody's mind: the economic singularity. You see, we all spend our time working in the world where we have our job, we have our pension, we are compounding our lives slowly, trying to do our best to get ahead. But then suddenly, we're all starting to see what I've been talking about for a while, that everything is going to change. And those things that you hold dear may not be the things that lead you into the future. And that's quite hard to sit on for a while. At first, it brings a lot of fear. But the reality is there's opportunity too. And I'm not going to say that this is going to be an easy thing. So what is a singularity? When I talk about singularity, it really is when the breakdown of kind of physics, mathematics, our understanding of everything falls apart. And it's being driven by one single force. And that's the exponential curve of intelligence. As we become no longer the apex intelligence on planet Earth or elsewhere, everything has to change and everything has to realign. And that's a really big thing. It becomes a black hole for the economy. It becomes a black hole for everything. And I say this often, which is like, I can't see past 20. I used to say 2030 to 2032. I can't see past it. I think 2030 is now spot on. I think there's enough evidence of intelligence going exponential and exponential curves going everywhere to make me understand that we really have 4 years left. And it becomes impossible to forecast beyond that. Here, firstly, is a chart that I built of intelligence per unit of energy, which is how I think everything works, part of my universal code thesis. And you can see from the chart, it used to be ruled by Law's Moore, essentially. Moore's law basically was the compounding of intelligence via chips. But suddenly, out of the chips, we've produced intelligence, and the curve now goes to a double exponential. This is why everything is moving so fast. It's because we're seeing Reed's law for the first time in any observable mechanism. It doesn't even happen in nature. Reed's law is the double exponential, Metcalfe's law squared, and that's where this is going. So when you get that, what you realize is the economy is going to have to completely realign itself, because intelligence is now scaling faster than humans. And I've talked about this in other videos. When you put energy through the silicon substrate, it's 1,000,000 times faster than putting it through the biological substrate of carbon. And that's what we're doing now. We're putting fucking electricity through sand and producing super intelligence. And in the next year, these AI models are going to be smarter than anyone. Sure, there'll always be an outlier of a human that is smarter than any AI. Because humans are sort of messy compute. They do interesting things. They come up with interesting ideas. But on a basic level, it's more than that. So how I think of the framework here is the everything code, which you all know, is the machine that runs the economy. It is the allocation of energy, whether that's money or thought, in the underlying machine. This is the liquidity cycle. This is where we're keeping the machine going by pumping liquidity, debasing currency in, because the debt is too high because of the aging population. And then I started developing a thesis called the Exponential Age back in, 2020, 2021, to say, I think all of the adoption curves of all of the new technologies are going to go exponential. And we're seeing that at every level. It's gone so fast that now Anthropic's revenues are looking more like Reed's law than Metcalfe's law. It's the fastest scaling of revenue of any company in human history. And we're seeing these kinds of things all over the place. And when you start to get all of these curves going exponential, they start to lead into the economic singularity because they all play into each other.
If there's one idea that sits at the center of Raoul Pal's worldview, it's that exponential trends eventually break linear thinking. Human beings are remarkably bad at understanding compounding. We underestimate it in investing, we underestimate it in technology, and we underestimate it in history itself. That's why every major technological breakthrough initially appears insignificant until suddenly it isn't. What Pal is suggesting is that intelligence has now entered its own compounding cycle, and once intelligence becomes exponential, every industry connected to it follows. This is where the conversation becomes deeply uncomfortable. Entire professions may evolve or disappear. Capital could move at speeds regulators cannot keep up with. Economic value may increasingly be created by machines rather than humans. But if the last 20 years belong to the internet, the next decade may belong to those who understand how intelligence itself is becoming the world's most valuable commodity. And that brings us to the next stage of Pal's thesis. What happens when AI doesn't merely assist the economy, but becomes an active participant within it?
But the problem is, we're now moving faster than society, politics, or economics adapts. Coherence breaks down. And that's what the economic singularity is. It's where we don't really understand how it works. So what do I mean here? What do I mean is that if GDP growth is population growth plus productivity growth plus debt growth, that was the equation that has run the everything code. And we're transitioning now into the new version of that, where we add in the AI and the robots. And then we add in energy density and efficiency and the efficiency of driving intelligence. This is the new economy, the economy of the economic singularity. And what happens is the economy can theoretically move faster than we've ever witnessed economies moving before, because the population growth and that growth of intelligence, which is the productivity, is exponential in itself. So as opposed to the world of 3% GDP growth, 4% GDP growth, we can get into a world of 10%, 20%, 30%. But a lot of the GDP is driven by the machines in an invisible economy. We're now seeing the ramping of the agent economy. So these are the new population. They're still early, but we're starting to see the ability to have much more autonomy amongst our agents who are doing longer tasks, human-style tasks at scale, but invisibly. They are beginning to transact. We're seeing it in the X402 protocol and elsewhere. We're seeing it in many of the major blockchains where agents are now their focus because agents need to move money at machine speed and not human speed. So when you have to start doing things at this machine speed, the silicon speed, you have to start breaking apart all sorts of the things that we know. Politics doesn't work in that world because this moves so fast. It moves faster than we can regulate, than we can understand, than we can do anything about. The financial economy has a velocity of which we've never had before because there's potentially billions and billions or hundreds of billions of economic agents coming that will transact at machine speed, doing things that we don't even see. Gone are the days of front-end UX on websites, and we're rolling in a phase where we don't see any of it because it's just machine readable, created for machines by machines. And it happens at a scale vaster than we can comprehend. Now, a lot of those agents are controlled by humans. Obviously, that's where we are in the world right now. We don't have autonomous AI that runs things on its own. We have semi-autonomous. So the profits can accrue to those who use it. But eventually, the profits will accrue to machines. And I've talked about this in the past, is if you think meme coins are just about tokenizing attention, which they are, but it's a much bigger thing than that. It's the tokenization, it's the instant capital formation around an idea that garners attention. And in the future, agents who are already spinning up most of the tokens you see launching on Solana will be launching ones to raise capital for particular projects where they need compute, energy, and other resources to deliver and create an opportunity. Now, that opportunity used to be funded by venture capitalists, and that funding cycle is slow. Anybody who's dealt with a VC firm knows how slow and complicated it is. But in the tokenized market, that can happen instantaneously. You can raise $1 billion of capital in an hour, and for an opportunity that only lasts a month, a week, even a day. We don't know what that's going to look like, but we're already seeing these agents execute yields at scale, looking between all of the different DeFi protocols and arbitraging that in real time to sort of farm the best yield. And they're more efficient at it generally than humans. Will they make mistakes? Of course they will. Will they do in the future? Much less. And so we're seeing this. And then we're about, in the next 12 months, to start introducing robots at scale. First in factories, then in retail, service businesses. These are big employers of the economy. And they're coming. And then we're going to put AGI brains into them. So we'll have a new creature that is stronger, faster, more intelligent than us.
This is ultimately why Raoul Pal continues to spend so much time discussing crypto. Not because he believes every token succeeds, or because speculation itself is the end goal, but because blockchains may become the native financial infrastructure of the economic singularity. Machines don't sleep, they don't wait for banking hours, they don't fill out paperwork. They transact instantly, globally, and continuously. Think about the implications. If autonomous agents need to pay for compute, purchase energy, hire other agents, store value, or raise capital in real time, traditional financial rails begin to look painfully outdated. Suddenly, stablecoins, tokenized assets, decentralized networks, and digital ownership aren't niche concepts anymore, they become necessities. The same way the internet needed TCP/IP, the machine economy may need crypto. That doesn't mean investors should blindly chase every narrative. History is littered with bubbles that arrived ahead of their time, but it does mean paying attention. The opportunities may not simply be in Bitcoin or Ethereum, but across the entire ecosystem being built around tokenization, AI infrastructure, decentralized compute, energy networks, robotics, and machine-to-machine payments. The biggest winners of the next decade may be those positioning themselves at the intersection of all five, and perhaps that's the most important takeaway from Pal's message. The economic singularity is not a prediction that demands fear, it demands preparation. Because while most people will spend the next 4 years debating whether this future is possible, others will spend those same 4 years building portfolios, businesses, and skill sets designed specifically for it. By the time consensus arrives, the asymmetric opportunity may already be gone. The clock, if Pal is right, is already ticking. 4 years is not a lot of time when measured against the scale of human history. The question isn't whether the world will change. The question is whether you'll recognize the change early enough to benefit from it. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an update on Bitcoin, crypto, AI, and the macro trends reshaping our world. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.